Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this very special program. I'm hosting Dr. Mads Gilbert as he's going to be bidding farewell to all of us here in South Africa. He's been on a whirlwind trip to South Africa, promoting the plight, not promoting the plight, but making us as South Africans understand the plight, the horrific plight of the Palestinian people. Early on in the month of October, when I started doing the stories on Palestine, I used the terminology genocide. And as my producer will tell you, I was ghosted and I was called out for it. But I went on relentlessly anyway, and I felt that it is what it is, and I called it out for what it is. And I see now the whole world is referring to the horrors being perpetrated on the Palestinian people as a genocide. And I'd like to go just a step further as well. Lauren Booth from the UK has said, we often refer to the Palestinian situation as, or rather, the situation of the Gazans as being in an open air prison. She has corrected that narrative by suggesting it's not an open air prison. They are not guilty, they are not prisoners, it's a concentration camp. So let's call it out for what it is. And someone who feels equally strongly about what's playing out in Palestine, the horrors, the genocide, someone else has actually gone a step further, a South African politician who has suggested it's not even a genocide, it has now reached the proportions of a Holocaust. He, of course, is the politician, Dr. Imam Mansour. But of course, I have someone else in studio with me this morning who feels deeply and very passionately about the struggles of the Palestinian people. They're wanting the occupiers to give back what has been taken away from them under very, very cruel conditions. Dr. Mads Gilbert is a Norwegian physician, head of emergency medicine, humanitarian activist, volunteer at Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. But sadly, as I introduce him, I don't think there's much of a hospital, the Al Shifa Hospital, left in Gaza City. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Alaikum salam.
How do you feel about the fact that you probably, if you do go back to Palestine, you're not going to go to a facility like the Al-Shifa and a whole host of other hospitals as well, because they have been bombed almost to smithereens?
Well, I think, first of all, I feel very sad because Shifa Hospital was the flagship of Palestinian healthcare, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank. It was their sort of most important university hospital with all specialties have been built up year by year. And I guess it was 3 years ago when they opened the new Shifa Medical Complex, which is a huge, beautiful building with all the new specialties. So the Palestinians have been very clever in step by step to improve their healthcare, both in the West Bank and in Gaza. There was a network of 36 hospitals in Gaza when this attack started. 2 were not functioning because of the siege up till then. So we started on the 8th of October with 34 functioning hospitals in Gaza. And now there are 8.
So this
and in the north, there are only 2 hospitals left, the Al Auda Hospital and the Indonesian Hospital. Both are surrounded by tanks. Both have been exposed to numerous attacks. In both hospitals, patients and medical staff have been killed. And in both hospitals, the situation is extreme. They can actually not undertake any surgical procedures, and they cannot do more than a healthcare station could do. So, in fact, the whole north of Gaza has now been taken in a way that I cannot remember in history that any occupier took away the whole healthcare system, which is important to understand because, you know, when you have an armed conflict, armies fight guerrilla fight an army fight a guerrilla, whatever. But they leave the people alone, and they leave their social system alone. Schools, hospitals, kindergartens, roads, water pipelines. Not so with Israelis. They attack everything. Any structure that could be considered Palestinian, they would attack. And this massive attack on healthcare, people need to understand that that is, in fact, another way of doing the politics of elimination. You might call it genocide, you might call it Holocaust, whatever word you like. But the point is that the occupiers are decimating the people through bombing, starving, thirsting, and disallowing them having a healthcare system, which we all need, not only for the war wounded, but in as much for people with diabetes, with hypertension, with mental disease, pregnant women who need follow-up. All of these medical needs in this large population are now totally uncovered in the north. Then everyone has to go to the south, where they also have been attacking hospitals, and they are now going to accommodate the double population of what they had. So this is an extremely evil, sadistic politics of strangulating a people, if not killing by bombs, then killing by not having access to healthcare, not having access to food, water, and warmth, a blanket. A blanket, and this is the most precious thing you can find in Gaza now. And we take it for granted.
Absolutely.
Full and cold. So this is an extremely well-planned or badly planned tactique of conquering the civilian population and killing them.
So, Dr. Knights, let's understand your role here. You're very passionate about the plight of the Palestinian people. You have been working in Gaza for very many years. How did you find yourself in this position? And why the passion for the people of Palestine? And, of course, their rights to medical care?
Well, I have a passion in general for people who are in a dire situation. And I have a passion for people who are oppressed, in particular, people who are oppressed by capitalism, by imperialism, and by the colonial politics in the global south. So I've not only been working with the Palestinians, I've been working with the resistance in Burma, who are resisting the very evil fascist regime in Rangoon. So I've been training medics there over many years in the jungle illegally. I've been working with the Tamil Tigers, because the Tamils are called the Palestinians of Asia. And they were decimated on the 17th of May, 2009. They were almost completely eradicated in a massive military operation from the Sinhalese army, advised by Israeli military experts. And I've been working in Angola and in Cambodia and in many places where people have a need for better healthcare systems. I'm not saying that I'm doing sort of replacing the healthcare system. My most important work has been to train and to teach, to bring the academic and the practical medical knowledge from the global north to the global south, not with a caravan of relief industry, which is part of the colonial project, but to give away our knowledge, give away our skills, give away our teaching systems so that they can manage themselves in mutual respect. They have the problem, we have the systems, they have the patient load, we have some experience from a rich part of the world. How can we join forces in order to make more people survive? But my passion for Palestine, I think, comes from the fact that I, as a young resident in my specialty, anesthesia and emergency medicine, I traveled to Beirut in 1982 during the Israeli invasion and bombardment of Beirut. And, you know, when you're young, you tend to be more sensitive to the impressions. When you're elder, you can filter out what you don't want to hear, and you can go into a good book. But when you're young, we are very sensitive. So I experienced the Israeli war machine against the civilian population in Beirut during that summer, and it was horrible. This is the summer that ended with the massacres in Sabra and Shatila, which you may remember.
Absolutely.
And then I got to know Palestinian history, the colonization of Palestine, the Zionist project, the culture of Palestine, the music, the food, the literature, the faith, everything. And I fell in love with the Palestinian people. and I was treated so nicely by everyone, not as a representative of the colonial North, but as one of them. And then, I got friends, I got families close to them. I worked for WHO for a period. I worked in the West Bank for a period. And then I came to Gaza during the Intifadas. And then I became part of their medical system. So I don't work on the outside, I work on the inside. I support the Palestinians on their preconditions. I don't tell them what to do. They tell me what to do. They show me my place, and I'm happy to have that place. I teach a lot in the university. I go with the ambulance system. I do pre-hospital organization. I do research together with my Palestinian partners. And I go every time there is bombing to be shoulder to shoulder with them. Not that they cannot manage. Look at what they've done during these 5 weeks, all alone. They have been managing the largest medical disaster in modern history, all on their own. And they have been standing tall. They don't need some white, well-fed, spoiled brat from the north. But all of us need a shoulder when hardship comes. So that's my medicine. It's solidarity medicine. It's not humanitarian medicine. Of course, there is a substance of being a humanitarian when you go to treat people. But my practice is solidarity medicine. I choose side actively for the oppressed. I go there. I ask them, how can I be of help? I don't tell them what to do. I work with them in their leadership. And I try to collect as much data and research as possible. And I publish a lot.
You're very active in that sense, and you go to all of these supposed war zones. Mm-hmm. You make your voice heard. Have you not been a target at any point regarding your stance and just how outspoken you are regarding atrocities on innocent men, women, and particularly children? Especially when we look at the Palestinian situation, it seems that the occupiers are intent in wiping out the face of these people. They're wanting to wipe out the very essence of who Palestinian people are by killing their women, their children, and their babies. And the one thing that will always remain with me, I said this on air a few days ago, is when they had the bombing in Hiroshima, that little girl, the picture of the little girl running stark naked with the most horrific look of fear on her face. The June 76 riots here in South Africa, when the little boy Hector Peterson was being carried to supposedly safety, but I think he was already dead by then. And from the Palestinian situation, those helpless little babies in the incubator. How can the world stand by and watch something like that and still think that it's okay for Israel to continue their atrocities?
There were a number of questions there. Do you want me to answer them in a row? Yes, I'm being targeted all the time. Of course. I would be insulted if I wasn't targeted. Then I would be completely, insignificant. Of course, the Israeli lobby target me. The Norwegian right-wing lobby target me. There is a group of very active pro-Zionists in Norway. They target me all the time. And when, the right-wing people, they always call me activist. The more, objective people, they call me Dr. Mads Gilbert. And the pro-Palestinians, they call me Professor Mads Gilbert. So there's sort of a ladder of ways to decrease my influence just by the way they name me. An activist is that's a bad thing to be. I'm proud to be an activist. I'm proud to be radical. I became radical because of the struggle against the nuclear weapons. And then the picture of that little girl, that was not Hiroshima, that was Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam. Thank you.
That was napalm and the way they used, and the war in Vietnam, the fight against the U.S. imperialism in Vietnam was what really got me active as a high school student. So it's been a travel, and of course I've had to study politics and history, and like all of us, get knowledgeable about different political systems, and we didn't know much about colonialism in my school. We knew about South Africa, We knew about that. We knew about Mandela. We knew about ANC being terrorists. And we knew about the different fractions. And in my home, it was absolutely prohibited to buy anything from South Africa. So I got that in with my mother's education. But otherwise, I didn't know very much. I think we have to understand that millions of people in our part of the world are caught in the narrative of the Zionists, the lies of the Zionists, and the way they portray the Palestinians. It is precisely colonialism. It's the way they portrayed you when you were fighting terrorists, evil people, dangerous, black people, killing white people. How can that be? How dare you kill white people? So that narrative, we see it every day now, the way they portray the massive attacks that they perpetrate on the civilian people, like with the incubators and the 36 babies. Then they counteract that by saying, oh, they have oxygen. Oh, they have, everything they need. Oh, by the way, we will bring incubators.
And they've shipped a few of those babies to Egypt, have they not?
Yes, some very few. Mm-hmm. And then, that's another sort of history. But the point is that this battle of the narrative is so intense that anybody who comes up with an alternative narrative that is being heard through the media is a dangerous enemy. I'm one of them. So, but I don't care. They can, if they want, go ahead and kill me. The story will live on. It's not about me. It's about the Palestinian struggle. And it is about the struggle of every oppressed people in the global south who still struggle with colonialism and oppression. And this is the global sort of the geopolitics of today. And in that struggle, Palestine is extremely important because it separates those who have understood the importance both of the anti-colonial struggle, but also the right of the oppressed people to oppose colonialism with arms, like you did. Like Europe and the United States are currently supporting the Ukrainian people in their struggle against the Russian occupation. So I think this struggle about the narrative and to have, in particular, the young people understand how this world is fitted together and what are the forces and what is right and what is wrong. That struggle, that battle takes place now on TikTok, on Instagram, on X, Twitter, on Facebook. Not so much Facebook, that's for the oldest. But Insta, TikTok, and X, there's a huge battle of the narrative. And who wins? Those who wins are the ones who have human values. Those who wins that battle of the hearts of the young people are those who can show prudent humanity, honesty, and say clearly, without reservations, I don't accept that anybody kill a child. And in that battle, I may play a microscopic role, but every grain of alternative narratives will change the big narrative. So I think it's very interesting to see. I had a discussion with my social platform team yesterday, and they actually said that on TikTok, the majority of the support is for Palestine. It's all minuscule support for Israel, because young people, they cut through the crap. They are not burdened with all the history that we have. They're not burdened with the European guilt load of Holocaust, having to repay the guilt that we did not stand up for the Jews by stepping on the Palestinians. What kind of logic is that? So I think there is a lot of hope in what is happening now. There is a lot of hope.
So let me ask you then, what do you suppose is going to play out now? And undoubtedly, you're going to make your way back to Palestine, or you're not, because you do believe there's lots of work to be done.
Now starts the work. Now starts the work. My friends, now we have to say, we will rebuild Gaza. That's my new slogan. Stop the atrocities, stop the killing, protect the hospitals. We've been shouting that for 5 weeks. Indeed important. And the tour, I want to thank Salam Media for organizing this tour. It's been brilliant. Very good. Big crowds. Lots of information. I go beyond the slogans because I don't think the slogan will bring us further. We can shout Free Palestine. We can shout Free Gaza. And that's important. But we need to educate ourselves. And I follow the updates like from from the UN. This is the brilliant OCHA, Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OPT. You can subscribe to the newsletter. It comes every second day. It's called Flash Update. This is Flash Update number 45. I got it yesterday. It has numbers, it has figures, it has very good graphics. You can put it straight into a PowerPoint. When you ask by your teacher to do a presentation on Gaza, we need more knowledge. We need evidence-based solidarity, which means that we know the numbers better than the media, and we can correct the media. I'll ask you, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How many hospitals were there in Gaza on the 8th of October when this started?
I think about 45.
I'll give you a B on that. No, 34.
34, okay.
So you were 11 away.
Okay.
And how many operative hospitals are there today?
Two. I think only 2.
You're talking about the whole Gaza?
Yes.
No, that will be a C or maybe a D on that.
Oh, goodness me. I need to end this interview. I'm getting downgraded as we progress.
Because we need the knowledge.
Absolutely.
So from 34 of them functioning, all the hospitals in Gaza have been drained by the siege, which had lasted for 16 years. So they lack everything. Before this attack started, only 40% of the essential drug list was filled up in Gaza. So 60% of the drugs needed to run it in a normal situation was lacking. Then comes the bombing. 34 hospitals. Now they're down to 8 out of 34. And 2 of them, you're right, are in the north, Indonesian and Alauda. Otherwise, they have more than, what is it? 8 ganger 4, 6 ganger 8. They have diminished the capacity of the healthcare sector in Gaza with a factor of at least 5.
And of course, that's deliberate as well.
Yes.
So are you then hopeful? I'm going to come back to your South African tour because I'd like to get more insight as to what you've picked up from our South African audience. But are you hopeful that things can never go back to normal in Palestine, but they're talking about a ceasefire? I'm wondering, right after the ceasefire, does the bombing continue at a higher, more ferocious force? And are we going to see much worse than we're seeing currently? What are your thoughts? You've lived in the area, you have friends there, you interact with these people on a regular basis. They see the situation very differently to the way we see it from the outside.
It's not a ceasefire, neither formally nor practically. It's a humanitarian pause, cleverly chosen by the Israelis, because ceasefires have other legal connotations. And you're right, absolutely right. It will get worse. And the last 24 hours, as they always do, before a lull or a break or a ceasefire, they always increase the magnitude of the bombing, the evilness of the bombing. So the last 24 hours have been horrible. Now there will be 4 days of humanitarian pause. They will feed in some far too little water and food. They will restrict the amount of supplies coming in. Normally, it's the UN who controls the humanitarian corridors, not in Palestine. Israel, the occupier, controls it, and they will pick out what they don't want the Palestinians to have. But you're right, I think they will continue to bomb. It will get worse before it gets better. And my focus, it will. History has shown us that an occupied people will not give up, and they will continue their struggle in new ways. It will get better. If anything, what we have seen is a total collapse of the Israeli Zionist morality, if there ever was one, but the total collapse in their standing also in the West. You know, you have the political level with the elected politicians, presidents and prime ministers, and then you have the professional political level, like the Foreign Department, State Department, Minister of Foreign Affairs. And at that level, the professionals are outraged. They are outraged with their ministers having been so vague in their condemnation of Israel. Because what they understand, and have observed, you don't have to be an expert to observe it, is the total collapse of trust in the global south to the United States, to EU, and of course to Israel. They never had any trust anyway. So in the global political sort of power play here, US have lost massively, Canada has lost, Israel for sure has lost, and EU has lost. And only now they come tiptoeing and saying, whispering, oh, we need to provide some humanitarian help. What on earth? You've been sitting there watching 6,000 children being killed, and you didn't open your mouth. We will never trust you. You have to rebuild your reputation with us before we're going to trust you. And we're going to hit you where you are most vulnerable. We're going to hit you on the money, because it's all about the money. And interestingly, 2 days ago, I think it was Saudi Arabia who said, it's time to discuss embargo, arms embargo on Israel. No Arab state should sell weapon to Israel. That could be the start of a complete weapon embargo. You can't give these crazy people a gun. Look what they're doing. And all of these elements are not much understood in the media. But at the long-term perspective, and even medium-term, Israel is losing. Israel is walking backwards off the cliff, and it will collapse.
We hope it happens sooner rather than later. You are hopeful that things will probably get to a point where things will improve in Palestine. They'll get back the lost territory. They'll get to a place where they'll start rebuilding their lives. We'll all pray for that, but it's not going to be an overnight fix. And who do you suppose is going to pay for the rebuilding of the infrastructure there? And more importantly, the morale, the hope of a very broken people.
We know who will pay for it. We know that the Palestinian people will stand tall, as they have done through this horror. They are not a very broken people. They are a hurt people, but they have their strength remaining. They have their big overall inclusive project of a free Palestine. They have their character, the sumud, the steadfastness, which is embedded in every Palestinian, man or woman, young or old, rich or poor, Christian or Muslim, everyone has that. And they have their faith, which is a very strong arms in these hearts. Alhamdulillah. But most of all, I think what we have seen through these horror weeks, we have seen a people that did not wave the white flag. We have seen a people that never surrendered. Wow. We have seen a people that got together amidst the most horrible sceneries, start digging in the rubble to find their neighbors, not only their families, their neighbors, getting bombed again, keep going to try to find them, carrying the wounded on their hands into the hospitals, the hospital workers, nurses, doctors, medical students, medical doctors, janitors, technicians. Have you seen how they have been standing and holding in the way? They've been holding the globe on their hands, the dignity of the globe on their hands, because they never yielded. They never said, we give up. They had to be carried out at gunpoint. They had these coward Israeli military occupation forces. You know, they cannot combat the hospital, and the unarmed, white and green dressed angels of hope, the healthcare workers, they have surrounded this small hospital with their tanks, and they're pointing their barrels at these hospitals. What do they say? We're here to protect life. We're here to protect our people. Go ahead, kill us. We will not give up. That's a people who are standing up. They're not broken. They're not broken. And we need to understand that what our duty is now is not to paint the picture of pity and weakness. It is to support the other side, the will to survive, to rebuild, and to stand up for Palestine. And I see that every time. I talked to the Minister of Health for almost an hour last night in Rafah, in Khan Yunis. And to hear his voice made my voice crack, because I consider him and the other healthcare workers right now the bravest people on earth. And they are carrying our dignity on their shoulders, because they show us what it means to be a wholehearted human. They need our support, not for pity, not for begging. So my question is, aren't we going now to launch a global campaign which has the headline, "We rebuild Gaza with the Palestinians"? and of any faith, on any political walk. We do that together. The rich businessmen in South Africa, who, by the way, are paying for these massive billboards. That's million of money. And we have the school kids making their paper flags. We have the healthcare workers standing outside the hospitals in South Africa with every name of every killed healthcare worker. We are behind you. It's a deluge. It's an avalanche of sympathy, of solidarity, of support. That avalanche is the future. Not because the Palestinians are going to give up, but because just as you needed international solidarity, you fought the battle yourself. They will fight the battle, but we can be a massive support, an avalanche of solidarity. And then we will say, you're not alone in rebuilding. We know that Israelis would never pay a nickel. They never pay war compensation. They're never punished. That's the main problem we have, Israeli impunity. But we will, with all the good forces, rich and poor people all over the world, we will see Gaza stand up again. We will see the West Bank stand up again. We will see Palestine conquer colonialism, fascism, and this extremely brutal Zionist disregard for human life, the racism. Because you never treat another people the way the Israelis are treating the Palestinians if you are not a racist. This is the most graphic illustration of what racism and apartheid actually is. It's stepping on completely defenseless newborn, premature newborn, unplugging the plug for electricity, taking away their oxygen. I mean, how low can you get? This is the worst example of racism and colonialism combined. And good people, the majority of people, right to left, top to bottom, all over the world, they say, we do not want to live in your world. So we will let our world prevail, a world of love, solidarity, compassion, justice, and equal rights for all. And the focus point now, it's the Palestinian people. Then we'll fix that together. Then we go on to the other places on the earth where colonialism still prevails. And with your help from South Africa,
Inshallah.
we will be good. We'll have a future, a bright future for our kids.
Amen. Amen. Your thoughts on your trip in South Africa, what you've seen, what you've picked up from South Africans that you've met. Do they have the strength and the will to continue with their support, this undying support for the Palestinian people? And how important is it?
Well, I'm just a voice. I'm just a traveling monkey that is being exposed here and there, and you know, people want to take pictures. But more than that, it's been a very good tour. I'm thankful, grateful to Salam Media, and for their very steadfast organizing, and also all the other participants. There've been, you know, lots of local organization, big crowd, 1,700 in Durban and Cape Town. Very good atmosphere, very powerful speakers. Veterans from your struggle and other people. And I'm very touched.
How do we keep up that momentum?
Can I continue?
Sure.
I wasn't just finished. I just had to take a breath. I'm very touched by the warmth and the heartfelt, very pure and true solidarity from your people, regardless of you know, politics and religion, all that. I feel a very warm wind when I meet your people. In all the cities, in all the meetings, this is a people that has known apartheid, has conquered apartheid, and who are willing to share their wealth of experience and humanity with other people still suffering. So to me, it's been a huge inspiration, massive inspiration. And I've been spreading the news to all my parties in Norway and elsewhere in the world, and we've all been lifted like a hot air balloon in a way. But it's easy to take down a hot air balloon. It only takes a pinch of a needle. So we need to be aware now, because now comes the quiet times. Now we are exhausted. There is a term called compassion fatigue. It means that your compassion comes to sort of you can take more pictures of killed children. You can take more news of bombed hospitals. You just have to look at some flowers and play with your kids. And that's fine. Do that. Recharge. Do that. Take a break. Use these 4 days now to take a breath, but then plan for the next 4 and 8 and 12 and 16 weeks, because we will be needed more than ever when this last part of these atrocities are coming. And then we need, as I said, to plan for how are we going to organize the rebuilding of Gaza together with the Palestinians under their leadership. That's where the long-term goal is. I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm ready for the next 5 years. Will be rebuild Palestine, and we will win.
Inshallah, alhamdulillah. We were all taken up by Dr. Mads Gilbert's tour to South Africa. You really fired us up. And that's when I came in with that question regarding the momentum. You know, you come along and you fire us up, you inspire us, motivate us that this is the way to go, you're on the right path. How do we upkeep that momentum?
Well, that's up to you. I'm leaving.
I know, and that's why I'm asking you.
I'm going to Cairo tonight and hopefully be entering Gaza as soon as possible. Yeah. So I'm not giving advice to people. I've not given a single advice to the South African government. I have listened carefully to the critique and to the support I've heard during our tour, but I'm not at all in the position to advise neither your government nor you. So you find out. I'm sure you find the right solution.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Closing thoughts?
Kuluna Gaza. That's what is said on my t-shirt. It's very worn and torn now. I bought this in Al-Quds. And Kuluna Gaza in Arabic means we are all Gaza. And we need to understand that. Because if this horrendous attack on Gaza prevails, we will all lose. Because then the question is, who's next? Because these people are greedy. They are greedy for more blood, for more conquer, for more geopolitical control. They are greedy for more war because they earn shitloads of money and waging wars because of the industrial military complex. So we need to understand Kuluna Gaza and Gaza Hatta Nasser is my last word. That's Arabic. It means Gaza will have victory. Palestine Hatta Nasser. Shukran kthir. Thank you so much.
We loved having you here. Thank you
so much.
Go well, keep safe. Allah be with you, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
Alaikum.
Thank you so much. And warmth and health and prosperity to all of you. And don't give up. Stay strong. South Africa can be the pivotal energy to change the narrative, inshallah, as you have done before.
There you have it, Dr. Mads Gilbert. Words of inspiration and motivation. And as you've gathered, he truly did. He was touched by his tour to South Africa. We do hope and pray, inshallah, he'll take these very strong messages back to our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We too will not lose hope. We won't lose momentum, and we will keep that flag flying as high as we possibly can. That's where we wrap up. Thank you for watching. Till the next time, as always, Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.